Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Rudy here to bring you guys another podcast. This is the Rudy Rambles podcast. And if you guys are your first time here and listening to me, I try to talk about things that I find interesting that I find on the internet or just simply things that I want to ramble about or talk about. So, first thing that I want to visit about today, guys, is selling a bike or selling bikes, maybe even purchasing bikes. I don't know. But here's the thing. So I buy and sell and trade a lot of different bikes because, um, first of all, that's what I like to do. That's what I really like to do the most is ride a lot of different bikes and put these bikes in a lot of different situations. Do reviews on them for my YouTube channel. Like, that's what I really would like to do the most. Like, I think if I could single out my YouTube channel, it would be just to provide information on different bikes that I ride and giving like my personal view on those bikes. Like I really enjoy doing that. Um, so in order to do that, right, you have to have like you have to ride a lot of bikes, and for anybody to respect your thoughts or your theories or how you feel about that bike rides or how you think it rides, um, you need to do it often and a lot. So um, for me, that's exactly what I try to do. I try to like ride a bunch of different bikes. I'm lucky enough that I have good friends that have nice bikes that kind of allow me to ride them. And I'm working on reviewing another bike that doesn't even belong to me. I have a good friend that just trusts me, and I have a couple of friends like that, and I've actually had people offer to say, hey, anytime you want, bro, just let me know. You can borrow my bike, if you want to do a review on it. So I think that's really cool that I've built that trust and character with my friends that they would allow me to just take their bike so that I can do a review on it. So with that comes buying and selling and trading bikes and bike parts and stuff like that, which I really enjoy doing that as well, too, because I actually know what I don't exactly know why I like doing it. I I think maybe I like doing it because it gives me the opportunity to have all these experiences with different bikes at a lower cost, right? Because I can't keep all these bikes. I would love to, but to have that kind of room to keep all these bikes would be tough, and to be able to afford to keep all these bikes would be tough. So that's where lies the issue of having to buy, sell, and trade all these different bikes and bike parts and things like that, so that you can get what you want at a cheaper cost, and then knowing that you're not going to have it for very long and being able to flip it, right? So I live in the San Antonio slash Austin area. So whenever I go to sell a bike, I post up on Facebook and on my Instagram. But on Facebook Marketplace, like I put like I think it's like an 80 or 100-mile range so that people can see my ad on Facebook Marketplace. But I also belong to a bunch of those different pages, right? The Facebook pages, Buy, Sell, Trade, Enduro Bikes, Trail Bikes, Buy, Sell page, San Antonio, Buy, Sell, Trade page, Austin, you know what I mean? And everything in between, because, obviously the more places that your bike can be seen that you're for selling, the more options you're going to have to sell it. I know there's other places like OfferUp, and there's another one, but I don't use those. I've had really good luck just using Facebook Marketplace and posting to the pages that I belong to on Facebook. It's been working out really well. Um, I'm not exactly sure where I'm leading to this, but I'm in the middle of selling another bike currently that I'm thinking that maybe I asked too little for. I think maybe I could have asked a little bit more money for, because I seem to be getting a lot of interest in it, like immediately. And like some bikes, yes, you will get a lot of immediate interest, but on this post I made it a little different, meaning that whenever I posted the bike, like at the end of the post, I put things like, if you see the ad, the bike is still available. Um, just to try to keep those people from that aren't interested and are just saying, or maybe they are interested, but they just curious on if the bike's still available. I don't know. I don't get that whole thing anyways, especially whenever you respond right away, right? So if they send the message that says, "Hey, I'm interested. Is this still available?" That's just that common um, phrase that that Facebook has, that you can just click on and just send it to the person, and then you respond with, "Yes, it's still available. Would you like to meet up, or do you have any questions?" And then there's just dead silence, just nothing, no response, nothing ever comes back out of it. So this post I put, if you see that the post is still up, the bike's available, because I just wanted to eliminate some of those and wasting my time in answering some of those. And so far, that has helped a ton. That has helped so much. I haven't gotten any of those responses. And the only responses that I have gotten have been real conversations about the product that I have for sale, about the bike that I have for sale. So that's really cool. I also put on there something. What did I put on there? I should look it up real quick. I also put something. Oh, I said, please do not ask me for my bottom dollar. Make me an offer. This works out best in your favor, which it does. If I really want something and I want it for the price that I want it at or around, and somebody's willing to negotiate, well, yeah, we're going to start at a lower price and hopefully we're going to meet somewhere in the middle. Or you can just simply say, no, this is where I'm at. So for example, I'm selling the bike for $1,500. If somebody hits me at $1,100, I'm probably going to say something like, how about 14? And then they're going to start bringing their price up. Okay, well, how about 13? And then, then's your point to like try to start, trying to meet the common goal, kind of meet in the middle of what you want to take. Or you can simply just cut it off and be like, hey, dude, 14's as low as I'll go, right? Like that's your negotiating, right? So if he hits you at 11 and you say 14, guy only has $1,200, $1,250, $1,300, whatever that amount is, then they can respond with, hey, dude, I know you said your the lowest your goal is like 14, or that's your final offer, or that's your bottom dollar or whatever, but I only have $1,300. XYZ, this is why I like your bike, this is why I want it. Give me some story, give me a background or something. Maybe I'll feel soft about it, and I'll maybe we can come up with something. I don't know, but don't just ask me what my bottom dollar is, because then I feel like you're not even like, you don't have any, like, you really not that interested in making this purchase or trying to make something work. You know what I mean? By trying to get to the bottom dollar. Or if you're going to ask me, or if you want to have an idea of what my bottom dollar is, again, just offer me what you have. If you have $1,200, say, hey man, all I got is $1,200. Do you think we can make this work? No, the bike's easily worth $1,500, or the bike's easily worth, $1,300. I can't meet there, but I've had really, really good luck using the Facebook platform and just doing that. I also had another friend of mine that knows that I wheel and deal on bikes, and he simply just asked me, hey bud, can you help me sell a bike? He had this bike. I went through it real good. I cleaned it up. I oiled it. I made sure there's the brakes and the suspension, and indexed the gears and made sure that all that stuff was working really well. And then I posted it up for sale, and we got our asking price for it. I did have to go meet the guy in Austin, which isn't a big deal. We met at Buddha. It's like a half-hour drive from my house. Really wasn't that big of a deal. Dude gave us exactly what we asked for it. I had several people offer me $1,100, $1,200, and in that first day, we had a solid offer of $1,200. So I asked my friend, I said, hey, it's an offer of $1,200. Dude said, he'll meet me right now. What do you think? And he asked me, he says, what do you think? I said, well, I think we can get more for the bike. He's like, all right. He's like, then let's shoot for more. And then just a day later, a guy's like, hey, can you meet me in Austin? I'll pay you I'll pay you the $1,600. And it was a no-brainer, right? So met the guy, sold the bike. He thought it was great. It looked good. Guy asked me, of course, how I tamed the bike. So I kind of told him my story about that and how I got it. And then my buddy gave me $100 off the deal. You know what I mean? Like I was just doing him a favor, but we're just good like that. So He gave me $100. Of course, I did have a little bit of gas money and stuff like that involved in it, which, like I said, we're friends. Like that's what he asked me to do. So now he's got a brother that's got a bike that he doesn't use anymore that he wants to sell since we had such good luck getting rid of that bike. So probably meet him sometime this week or the next few days here and get some pictures, get a hold of the bike, clean it up, go through it real good. And I'm sure his, whatever deal we make out of it, I'm sure his brother will kick me out, some money for helping him out selling the bike. And I wasn't expecting anything. I'm just helping a friend out, So that's pretty cool. That I've had good luck. So personally, I'm selling another bike that I have in my fleet of bikes because one, this bike just simply doesn't get used that much. It's a hardtail. It's a great hardtail. It's a really good hardtail. It's been tough for me. I've thought about selling this bike in the past. I'm like, no, I'm going to keep it, use it for something XYZ, whatever. And then I'd actually never really get around to it. Anyways, I did have a video that I posted on my YouTube channel about switching it from 27.5 to 29er. I really like the 29er setup on the bike. Although, riding it and not being used to full suspension, I don't know. I had some back pain, but I rode that bike pretty hard that day, and I rode 2 days prior, so I wasn't real fresh. But, it gave me just a little bit of lower back pain that I forgot that I get with that bike. And it's just from, when you get tired towards the end of your ride, you're sitting down in maybe areas that you shouldn't be sitting down and pedaling, like rockier areas that are, a little bit more jarring to your back. Because the trails that I took it on were more just, XC casual, like flow trails. And there's certain parts towards the end of the route that I take that it's really rocky. It's uphill. It's kind of a just sit and spin area. There's not really a good reason to like get up out of the saddle and like try to pedal through that because there's not a lot of fun to be had going through it, I guess. I don't know. And you're tired. I was just simply tired at that point too. So anyways, I'm selling this bike because I yet again am trying to find the cheapest way possible for me to get another bike in the stable so that I can build that bike up, do a review on it, and then flip that bike and sell it, just start the process all over again. So the bikes that I'm currently looking at purchasing, I'm actually purchasing as a frame only. This is going to be my first, not my first, be my second really, truly, frame up build, but it's going to be like my first mountain bike frame up build. But I have basically everything that I need, except for the frame, and the frame comes with the shock. I probably will not buy a frame unless it comes with at least the shock, and a fork. I will be needing a fork because what I'm looking for is a trail bike, a more trail friendly bike, something between 130, 150 rear travel, and the same for the front, somewhere between 130 and 150 60 front travel, right? And the top of my list is the stump jumper that jumps stumps, Evo alloy. And a friend of mine just got one of these, and I haven't spent a whole lot of time on it, but I really like what they've done with this bike in terms of the adjustments that you can make on it. Like, the thing is just chock full of adjustments. You can adjust the bottom bracket height. You can adjust the wheel size. You can make it a mullet. You can adjust the head tube from like 65.5 degrees all the way down to like 63 degrees or 63.5 degrees. Like, it's crazy the amount of adjustments this bike makes. And it comes with the swap box tube, which I think is sick. I think more bikes should start coming with that, and I hope that it would be cool if Santa Cruz jumped on that, because I think that Santa Cruz next bike should come. They really need to do an update, I think, to the Mega Tower, and I think it should come with a high pivot and a swap box or some kind of like frame material boxing. Anyways, I think that would be cool. Getting off subject here. So on my short list, yeah, is that bike, is the Stumpjumper Evo Alloy, because it's going to be cheap. The frame with the shock is like $2,000, and everything else I actually own except for a fork. And I have a little bit of stash pile of money for a fork whenever I decide to get whatever bike I need. Other than that, I have a set of rims and tires, cranks, handlebars, stem, seat posts. So I have everything except a frame. So in selling this, my Santa Cruz Chameleon, my hardtail, that's what I'm looking at buying. So besides that, so what I need to do is I need to sell this bike, pocket the money so that I can buy the frame, and then figure out what fork that I want, and then this way it will be like the ultimate cheap way for me to like continue to keep these bikes be able to review these bikes, right? Because whenever it comes down to it, it's the frame and the shock. Whenever you're talking about full suspension bikes, it's the frame and the shock that makes the biggest difference in bikes. Everything else is, how would you say, everything else is subject to change, because once you know what a fork feels like, how it's supposed to feel, where you like it, suppleness versus support, wheels and tires, like all that stuff, yes, it can make difference on how a bike feels, but ultimately all of these things that you put on the bike doesn't matter as much whenever you've ridden these parts on other bikes, because you know how they feel, you know how they're going to react, you know how they're going to feel. Whenever you put them on another bike, you can be sure that the changes that you feel and how this frame feels on this bike with all these other parts that you're used to is going to be more of just how the frame, just how the bike feels, not so much of how it feels with this fork, or how it feels with these rims, or how it feels with these handlebars. Like all of those things are, I feel, what's the right word for it? All of those things I feel are just personal preference. There we go. All the way down from, aluminum wheel versus a carbon wheel, aluminum bar versus carbon bar. And if you've ridden a Fox 34, a Pike, a 36, a Lyric, a Zeb, a 38, which I have ridden them all, you know how they're going to feel no matter what. And you know that you can adjust those parts on the bike so that you get the best performance out of them. The thing that matters the most is going to be the frame and the rear shock. And the reason the rear shock is going to feel different on the frame that you purchase, because these shocks have special tunes for the frames that they're put on. A lot of times, if you buy just the shock to upgrade to your bike, a lot of times you'll find it difficult to get that shock to maybe feel the way you expect it to feel, because that shock wasn't tuned for your bike. So not that it's a bad thing, I just think, especially until you actually know what you're looking for out of your suspension, sticking with the stock, the shock that the bike frame comes with on a full suspension bike is going to be best suited for you until you actually know what you like or what you're wanting. as far as performance goes out of the shock for that bike. Anyway, so that's why I say that I wouldn't I wouldn't just go out and purchase a shock for this bike if it didn't already come with one, because you don't know how you don't know how the engineers designed this bike to feel, and this is why they put this shock tune on this shock. Yes, starting to make sense now. Anyways, so that's probably that's like the top bike on my list of bikes that I would like to get to put in my stable, because that's what I want personally that I don't have. Is a I want a mullet bike, which I don't have, but I want a smaller 29er, more geared towards trail bike than enduro bike. I have a 2019 Bronson. It's a V3 model. Absolutely love the bike. It's 27.5 front and rear. And yes, I know that you can mullet that bike, but I don't want to mullet a bike that wasn't meant to be mulleted. I would rather purchase a bike that you could either get a rear link. If somebody made a rear link for the Bronson and said, put this link on, you can mullet your bike. It's going to feel great. Your geo's not going to be out of whack. Your steering's not going to feel floppy. I would do that. I would 100% do that. Nobody makes that for the Bronson. I know that you can get the Cascade component link, add it to the Bronson, and I know people that have put like 150 or 160 29er fork on it and put on it, and they claim that it's the best thing they've ever done. But here's the thing, I haven't seen anybody do like a YouTube video on how great this is and what they did and how they did it. And I'm not willing, because I don't have an extra 29er fork sitting around, maybe I will shortly, to try to experiment that with myself. That would be a good video for somebody to put out. Or, again, I was talking to another friend of mine about this, off subject a little bit. I don't know when I'll come back. We'll see. Whenever you just have general conversation with people on the trails, maybe people that you've met up with in a group ride that you don't know that well. And you're just trying to strike up general conversation, and you ask them, how do you like your bike? And they just go on and on and on about how great they like it and how much they love it. But how much information can you get from these people? So my next question is, after they tell me how great and how much they love their bike, is what other bike have they ridden? That way I can gauge how much validity their opinions in how good this bike is and why they like it is compared to what they had. Well, if they've only ever had one other bike and it was a hardtail, then yeah, I can see why your bike feels so much better. Even if they've had a hardtail and maybe they went to like a short travel cross country bike, and now we're talking about enduro / trail bikes, like, you want to know that the people that you're getting your information from has some experience, right? Otherwise, you can only take what they say with a grain of salt. You know what I mean? You can't really. You got to be careful on who you ask and the questions that you ask to know if you're actually getting a good response from what they like about their bike, or what they like about this bike or that bike. And that's where I want to be. You know what I mean? I want to be in the category of, ask Rudy. he's had this kind of bike, or ask Rudy, see what he thinks. And I already do. I have plenty of friends that send me pictures. They're looking for used bikes, and they're or this and that or whatever, and they'll ask me my opinion on what I think about the bike. You know what I mean? And again, like, there's questions to be asked. You have to, I asked them, okay, well, let's, a friend of mine, currently, he's a motorcycle, an enduro motorcycle racer. He races, professionally, and he's kind of getting into mountain biking. And he's got this really old Moto B Cane. It's a 27.5 plus bike. It's really heavy. It's old. I'm gonna guess it's probably like 2016 or 17. And he's put some better tires on it, some better rims on it, but it's still got like the old quick through axles. It's only like 100 millimeter fork in the front. You know what I mean? So I'm asking him these questions, right? I said, okay, what kind of, oh, so he sends me this bike. He sends me this bike. It's a Polygon, like Siskiyou 7, I think is what it was. And this guy rides. I should get back to this too. This guy rides. And this Polygon's only like 120 millimeter rear travel, 120 millimeter front travel. It's a full suspension bike, but it's still got the quick through release axles, and it's only boost 110 front, not it's like 142 rear or something like that with the quick throughs, or with the quick release. And I'm telling him, I'm like, no, you don't want this bike, because this bike isn't much better than the one that you have, and it's actually got less travel than the one that he currently has now. And I just know that he's going to be happy with it for about 2 weeks, because it's a new bike. He just bought it. He spent all of his, he spent his money on it or whatever. But the way that this guy rides already, like, he's already outgrown that bike. Before he purchased it, he's outgrown that bike, right? So I told him, I said, look, dude, this is the things that you need for you, and the way that you ride and what you want to ride. He's not going to be traveling a whole lot with the bike. So I told him, I says, it doesn't matter if it's a 27.5 plus or a 29er, but you need one of those two, or a mullet. You need to make sure that the bike is boost front and rear. You need to have no less than 130 millimeters of travel front and rear. So if it's got 130 millimeters of travel in the rear and 150, great. If it's 130 in the rear and 140 in the front, great. If it's 130, great. You need no less, because the way that this guy rides, and the way that he wants to ride, inside of Texas, inside of San Antonio, anything around this area. I mean, you can take a 130 mil bike to Spider Mountain and have an absolute blast, and it's going to do everything. It's just not going to do everything as fast as a bigger travel bike is. Anyways, so I'm giving him all these things that he needs to write down, so that whenever he goes looking for a bike that's in his price range, he can mark these off and be like, okay, he says it needs this, it has this, but it doesn't have that. It has this, but it doesn't have that, right? So these things, I told him that he needs to make sure that the bike has before he makes a purchase. Also, this way he doesn't just keep sending me, because before that he was sending me like bike after bike after bike. Like, what about this bike? What about this bike? What about that bike? Right? So now he's got a checklist of things that he can go through before sending me these bikes. So now whenever he sends me a bike, and let's say it's a 2017 model bike, but it has through axles front and rear, it's got boost front and rear, it's got a 1x drivetrain, maybe it's an 11 speed, or maybe it's a 12 speed, you know what I mean? Then I can look at, see what the bike has, and if it's just worth the money. If it's at this point, then it would be just if this bike is worth the money, or where I think he should be able to purchase the bike at. Like, maybe the guy's like me and he has it for $1,500, but the bike's really worth like $1,200 or something like that, if he'd be willing to take 12, right? Or seeing where he's at. anyways, I don't remember how I got on this subject, but I'm still looking for another bike so that I can build it, so that I can continue doing um, my review videos, right? This weekend I am working on my Norco, putting together the review video, and basically all I need for that is just some third person shots. I don't have any third person shots of me riding this bike. That way it'll make the video a little bit more exciting. I'm going to Spider Mountain, and I know a friend of mine that's going to be there that does a lot of video creating, and he takes pretty good videos. So I'm hoping that I can get with him and get these videos so that I can use them in my review video about my Norco, because that bike is absolutely insane, the things that bike can go through. But that bike doesn't necessarily make a good trail bike. It's a good race bike, it's a good park bike, but it's not one that, if you're going to be doing a lot of it's a good shuttle bike. It's not one of those bikes that's going to be a great mix on mixed trails, right? Like, this bike either needs like some serious downhill, chunky, gnarly, steep, to make it feel and come alive. Otherwise, you're going to be, if you don't have that kind of terrain and you're just on like single track flow with a lot of pedaling, you're not going to have as much fun, because no matter how good of a pedaler you are, without the steepness and the gravity to help pull that bike around down, it's just not the right bike for that kind of riding. And thus, this is why I want a little bit shorter travel bike 29er, because I've really liked these short travel 29ers, and I really like that I can mullet that Evo, the Specialized Stump Jumper Evo, or I can run it on the full 29er. So I'm really stoked about trying that out. And if there's not really another bike out there that I can get affordably that I can mullet. And I think that's probably why that's like on the top of my short list of bikes, because if I don't like it in the mullet and I just want to continue to use it as a trail bike, leaving it as a full 29er is probably going to be the best of both worlds. I just want to try it out for myself, and it's weird because looking at other reviews that people's done on this particular model, nobody has actually done have actually done the review set up in the mullet. Now, the biggest thing, the hottest thing, not the biggest thing. Okay, so the Bronson, right? Back to the Bronson. They just released their new version 4 of it comes as a mullet. And I would love to ride that bike. I think that would be the answer to my one quiver bike, I guess. I don't know. I've never ridden one yet, so I can't say that. I have no idea what it's like to ride a mullet bike yet, guys. So that's where we're at. I need to get my hands on a mullet bike so that I can do this. What else? Let's see. What else did I have on the agenda that I wanted to visit with you guys about? Where are we at here? So what's your, okay, so if you guys are anything like me and you have more than one bike, what bike is it that you ride the most, right? And for me, right, okay, so I have the hardtail that's getting sold. It gets ridden very little. I have the Norco that gets ridden at Spider Mountain usually 3 or 4 times a month. I've ridden it in a race twice since I've had it. I don't ride it on trails because it's ridden. It's just not a great trail bike. There's anything that's inside of San Antonio for that bike um, isn't enough. It's just lugging around this big old heavy bike that that is too big for any of the trails, any of the stuff that's really inside of San Antonio. So my Bronson, my Bronson gets ridden inside of San Antonio three, at least 3 days a week. I'm going to say 2 or 3 days a week inside of San Antonio. That bike gets ridden a week. And last month, Reveille Peak, I was at Reveille Peak every Sunday. And that's the bike that I rode. So my Norco basically hasn't been ridden for like 5 weeks, 6 weeks. It's just been sitting there looking pretty. I washed it and just sits there looking pretty. But we're going to Spider Mountain tomorrow, Saturday. We're going to Spider Mountain tomorrow. So I'm pretty stoked about that, taking the Norco with. And then I have my dirt jumper. My dirt jumper that I just built up basically from the frame up, using a mix of parts that I had from another dirt jumper and some new parts that I purchased. And it's hard to say between my dirt jumper and my Bronson, which one gets ridden the most. Last weekend, for example, I had my dirt jumper at the pump track for like 5 hours on Saturday and like another 4 hours on Sunday. And I love that bike. I have so much fun on that bike. And I'm starting to learn tricks. I'm really starting to get the tables down. I'm building confidence in the bike itself because, like I said, it is kind of a fresh build. So it's not like riding a dirt jumper is not new to me, but riding this dirt jumper is a little new to me. The rear end, the one that I had before is a large. This one's a medium. So it is a bit snappier. I should have gotten a medium to begin with. And that's why I ended up with the one that I have now. But this thing's pretty tricked out now. I got different wheels, different tires, different fork, same handlebars, same cranks, different frame. But like I said, like I think my dirt jumper is the bike that gets ridden the most because at this where I'm at here, I can go to this park, McAllister Park in San Antonio, and they have good trails. They're just kind of dull and boring for the most part. Because it's just more Flow XC stuff. There's not really like a lot of rough terrain, and if you want to have fun, like you really gotta keep your gas on the pedal. You really gotta be pedaling some sections to have a good time. And speaking of that, I'm gonna try to visit with you guys about that a little bit. Anyways, so this park, right? So it's got decent trails. Like put in some good exercise, put in some good. I put in the last ride that I went in. Actually had a blast. Like I said, I'll visit with you about that more. But for example, we ran 11 miles in 11. Yeah, we ran 11 miles at 11 miles an hour. I mean, we were flying through that place. It was awesome. It was a good ride. It was a really good ride. But that same park also has the pump track. So I can have the dirt jumper in the back of the truck, and I can also take a trail bike with me. And this last ride, that's exactly what I did. My friend Graham, he's like, hey, let's just do a ride at Mac. I haven't ridden my dirt jumper. This is him talking. I haven't ridden my dirt jumper in a while. Let's go hit the pump track, and then we'll ride some trails. I'm like, yeah, dude, that sounds great. We get out there, and we're on the pump track for maybe half an hour, maybe 20 minutes, half hour. And just like always, about that time, it's like almost 5 o'clock, like 4:45, 5 o'clock. It starts getting filled up with, little kids. And you just can't really haul ass or do the jumps, and you don't want to be rude and make the kids wait, or try to explain to them, hey, watch out for me, I'm gonna hit this jump, kid, whatever. So it gets filled up, and Graham's like, why don't we just go ride trails? I'm like, all right. I really didn't want to go ride trails that day, because I had ridden every day up to that point. I had ridden like 5 days in a row. And honestly, I was just sore and tired. I just love riding bikes. I just ride myself ragged. And anyways, before I went, I took a pre-workout, which I don't always do, but since we were going to go for this ride and I was already feeling sluggish, I figured it would be a good time to, take a pre-workout. Um, and I haven't mentioned this yet. I've been working on, trying to eat better, and ride my bike more, or not ride my bike so much more, ride my bike harder, right? Ride it with some enthusiasm. And if that didn't, that's exactly what happened. Um, I got on my bike. We were doing our normal trails, and we had another friend of ours. Um, he's not new to biking, but he's kind of new to mountain biking. And he said his endurance isn't there. He knows, and he's like, "Hey guys, if you leave me, leave me. Just I'll be fine. I know where I'm going. Whatever." Great. Graham's as fast as I am for the most part, especially at Mac. So boom, he's like, "I'll follow you guys." We get on the trails, and I don't know. Uh, I just started going, and like a switch went off, and I was going. I was just flying. Like I felt really good. I had good energy. Um, the trails, it had rained late last week, and the trails weren't dry and dusty. They weren't tacky either. I mean, they were just like primo. They were just like really, really good, right? Like everything was a stick and you're hooking up. Um, anyways, my thing is endurance. I know that I ride my bike a lot, but I don't always like probably push myself as hard as I could to try to continue to help build up that stamina. I just ride a lot. But with that pre-workout, like I was feeling good. I was feeling really, really good. And for whatever reason, like even though I've ridden these trails, you know, 100 times, the same route probably 100 times, um, it just felt really, really good. I was just hauling ass. I was skipping and bumping off the little routes that I could. I was starting off, like pedal to the metal, like we take breaks. There's certain sections where we tend to take breaks, because it a long pedally section, or it's just a good place to like stop and take a good stretch. Um, anyways, I passed up two of those places because I was just, excuse me, because I was just feeling so good, on the ride. So skip the second one, and we stopped, and Graham was like, "Damn, dude, you're flying today." I'm like, yeah, like I feel good. And we stretched and kind of talked for a second, and then got ready to go. And so leaving that spot, just dropping gears, boom, 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 and just pedaling into the next section just as hard as I could, just so I can kind of keep my flow, keep my flow. And which is the best, right? Like if you're on um flowy slash XC trails, and there's not like a lot of jumps or things to make the trail exciting, the faster you go, the more fun you have just from the speed, right? Even though it takes more effort because of the type of trails there are, you can make it fun by trying to, keep your flow, keep your pedals going. And I guess that's just something that I hadn't normally done, um, because the trails were just kind of have been monotonous and kind of boring, doing those. But and maybe it was the pre-workout that gave me the energy, the boost that I needed. But I just had a really really good ride. But the reason I really enjoy going to this place is for that. You know what I mean? I can take my dirt jumper, I can ride the shit out of the pump track, or if I have some friends that are riding trails that I see there, I can go ride trails. But I tell you what, the situation where that happens isn't very often. And more so, I just end up staying at the pump track, which I'm totally fine with. I'm totally fine with. Because I just love riding that bike. I love riding the pump track, and I love riding my dirt jumper. And if you guys don't already know, like all the skills that you get from riding the pump track, like transfer over to riding trails. Like whenever you see like little parts on the trail that you can pump, you pump, and then you go pedaling out of them, and you just have this burst of energy. So um, it's great practice for that. Uh, the ones that we have here have a couple of really nice like bermy turns, and like those are really fun to like go into and hit it like mock chicken, like really fast and keep your speed, and then hump in the next one. And then there's a couple of transitions that you can boost and jump over. Like it's just a lot of fun. So I think that my most I think that my most ridden bike is the dirt jumper right now. Like that's what I enjoy riding. And see, I think that the other thing too about the trails, I'm riding 90% of the trails, 95% of the trails on my Bronson. I love the bike. Bikes bikes probably the best, especially at the time, probably the best all-rounder bike that you could buy. Seriously. Um and I've done some things to, keep that relationship alive. Like, um, I took the Zeb off of it and I put the 36 on it. I took the original, I took the original linkage and put it back on the bike, and took my Cascade component off, um, which I think I'm going to do a refresher video. Actually, I know I'm going to do a refresher video on that Cascade component link, because I think that possibly, um, I may have gotten the link a little too early in owning this bike. Um, but who knows? I'm still in the middle of investigating and reviewing the the bike in its current state. So I went and I put the original link back on, and it's got two settings on it. It's got a high and a low. And I had never really ridden the bike in the high position. I really like riding the bike in the high position, a lot. But I tell you what, this last ride that I had, it was in the low position, and it was the most fun that I've had riding that bike. So, God, that's hard to say, that's hard to sell now. And then I'm gonna have to put the so I wrote it in the high link position for, I don't know, probably a month worth of riding, right? And then now I've had it in the low position, and I've ridden it for like 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah, but this for sure has been the best ride that I've had on it. I had a lot of fun. Hmm. Anyways, so I think that maybe I might have gotten that Cascade component link just a little too early, and I should have given the bike in its current setup a better chance. And ultimately, that's why I went back. Actually, I went back because I was taking the Zeb off of it, because I had this big bike, this big park bike that is going to do anything and everything that I want it to do. Um, and I didn't need my Bronson to be such a bruiser. I needed to be more of a trail bike. So I took the Zeb off, um, to lessen the weight, and I took the link off to make the travel a little bit shorter. So yeah, so I'm in the middle of doing that too, actually. That's a really good experiment. But those for sure have been my most ridden bikes in the past 2 months. Up to that point, it was the Norco. Like, it was just so fresh and so new, and like I was still adding stuff to the Norco and getting used to it. And the way that that bike is set up now, like it is a beast. Like, that bike is badass. Not only that, but I put some custom paint on it too, so it looks pretty sick too. So um, I don't. I probably won't move off of the Norco. It's a 2022 Norco. I probably won't move off of the Norco until the 2023 model bike starts showing up. Or, well, here's the other thing. So there's like Cascade components. You know, they make these different links for your bikes. If you don't know, check them out. CascadeComponents.com. This guy Williams Racing Products, found him through some other friends. Um, just finished making a mullet link for the bike where you can you can choose to up the travel on the rear of the bike, and you can put a 27.5 wheel on it, and it keeps its geometry the same. So I'm really excited about that. Well, it keeps the bottom bracket too the same, which is good, because the bottom bracket on that bike, I haven't got any pedal strikes, not like I used to get with my Bronson before I went to 175, or before I went to from 175 to 170 millimeter crank arms. Um, Nothing like that at all. The bike actually sits pretty high in its travel for being a coil bike, but um, if it drops it from being a smaller tire, that's it's got to drop a little bit, right? From being a smaller tire. I don't know. I have to look into that more. But I definitely won't get rid or move off of the Norco until I've had a chance to ride it with the mullet link, and I've had a chance to put a dual crown fork on it, because you can do it. And if you can do it, it needs to be done. That's how I feel about that. And that's actually so that's actually one of the things that I could do versus getting a new frame for the bike. I could spend the money that I was going to spend on a new frame, right? Like 2Gs, and get a dual crown fork and front wheel for about the same price. For about the same price as getting a new frame to have another bike. But um, I want a new trail bike, and I think it's time for me to move away from the Bronson. But the only way I'm going to do that is if I have a really nice, good trail bike, like for trails, for trail riding, not just downhill smashing bomber stuff. I think that's what the plan is, right? I don't know. It's hard for me to say that. It's hard for me to even think about moving off the Bronson, because in any situation I can get on that bike and just feel totally confident hitting new features on that bike. Like, I know exactly how that bike is going to feel. I can look at a drop or a jump or whatever and know without a doubt, like, where I'm going to need my speed to be on that bike, what position I'm going to need to be on the bike, like the confidence level of of that bike for me is just so high. Like, there's nothing that I won't ride on my Bronson yet. There hasn't been anything. And having that bike and knowing how that bike feels just gives me the confidence. So there's I don't know if you guys follow my YouTube channel or not. It's MTB and Rudy. Check me out on YouTube. But I had a little video where I did this this Whale Tail for the first time. Like, that's the only bike that I'm doing that feature on. Seriously, that's the only bike I'm doing that feature on. And it's because I've ridden that bike for so long and I know how it feels, I know how it reacts, and I have the confidence in it. On any other bike, including my dirt jumper, that's probably more so built for doing that particular jump. No other bike would I have the confidence in doing that feature on. And there's been throughout my biking ventures, there's been quite a few of these features that I've come across that there's no way I would have done it for on my hardtail, even my Norco. Even like I like that bike's purposefully built for going downhill as fast as possible. It's not a downhill rig, but it's an enduro rig, and it's made to go down the steepest, roughest stuff that you can throw at it. It's not really made as a high flyer. It's just not. It will. I mean, I can send any of the jumps at Spyder on that bike as comfortably as any other bike that I've ever been on. But when it comes to doing like features and unknowing drops and things like that, I definitely feel 100% more comfortable and confident on my Bronson, like for sure, without a doubt. So it's hard for me to think about moving off of the Bronson for anything. And I've often thought, what if something were to happen to the Bronson and the frame cracked and I had to make a claim on it? I don't think they have frames for this bike any longer. And if I were to crack it, I'm willing to put money on it that they would send me the new model. They'd send me a version 4, which I don't know how that would work, because the version 4, like I had mentioned before, is a mullet. So yeah, I have a 27.5 wheel and I have everything else that I need to put on the bike except for a 29er fork and a 29er front wheel. Actually, I do have a 29er front wheel. So I don't have a 29er fork. So I wonder how that would work. Curious. Well, either way, I hope nothing happens to the bike before I have a chance to sell it. But I've definitely gotten all the use out of this bike that I could. Like, I've done everything on this bike, and I think that's, so then there's like personal reasons why I just don't want to get rid of the bike. You know what I mean? The Bronson was my first full suspension bike. It was my first of a lot of different things whenever he talked about bikes in general. So, I don't know if the time comes, if I can move off of it, but there is going to be a time where the bike's going to be worth the most amount of money. And then from then on, it's just going to be devaluing, right? And then it's going to hit a plateau where no matter, because of how old the bike is, like, it's only going to be worth this amount of money. And I see old Bronsons, the version 2 Bronsons, I see a bunch of those for sale, and they're still asking like, like $3,700, and they're like CC'd frames, X01 builds or whatever. And I think to myself, like, I would, like, unless you were back then and you know how those bikes feel, or you were in the world of mountain biking at that point, I don't think that I could go back and purchase an older model. And I think that's like where I'm at now. Like, I'm only one gen back. I'm only months back from the new generation Bronson, right? That everybody seems to be, getting if I end up 2 generations back before I sell this bike, like it's going to be really, really hard to sell. And I'm not going to get any money out of it. So maybe I should really consider selling it sooner rather than later, especially if I'm going to continue trying to ride a bunch of different bikes, right? Like we're talking. Just coming to a realization. Anyways, where are we at here with time? Just at an hour. So I'm going to cut it off there, guys. Appreciate you listening. If you're watching my YouTube channel, I appreciate you guys watching. If you guys get a chance, give me a thumbs up, like, subscribe to the YouTube channel. You should be able to find this podcast on all major platforms. Until then, guys, peace out. Go ride your bike.